So we are in the hangar again, as you can clearly see, and obviously we're not going flying, but we're going to be doing some maintenance on Sheila here. As you may or may not know, every airplane has to have regularly scheduled maintenance, and for general aviation airplanes, this has to be done on an annual basis. So this is the annual time, and on the compressions, number 4 cylinder was not doing so well. So I've already taken off the valve cover to make sure that the rocker isn't pushing down on the valve, causing the leak through what I perceived as one of the valves. So that wasn't the case. So there is apparently not enough seal between the valve and the valve seat. And what we're going to do is we're going to lap a valve. So this is one of those procedures that is maybe a little unorthodox, but can actually get you through your compressions and bring the airplane back up to legal flying status. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to disassemble the spring off of the valve, and we're going to go through the spark plug hole, and we're going to lap the valve. So lapping is a process. We're going to use some lapping compound. This is some very gritty paste. So we're going to apply this lapping compound with some Q-tips, and I have some tools here that we're going to need. So obviously we're going to need to have the lapping compound. I like these really long wooden Q-tips. They're a little stronger, and if you put too much pressure, they snap. So hopefully they don't snap in the engine, but we're going to do that. Also, you're going to need some sort of valve compressor. I have one made up specifically for the Franklin, and I also have this little piece of rubber hose that I have a chuck on, and this is going to be placed onto the end of the valve that's sticking out, and this is what we're going to use to turn it as we're lapping the valve in the seat. Now, you may or may not know how difficult it might be to get the spring off of the valve, and we'll show you that here in a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to use some paracord, and we're going to put this through the spark plug hole in order to use this piston to hold the valve in place while we compress the spring and pull the keepers out. This is a volume-based type deal, so whatever you can find that's large enough to fit through that spark plug hole is the type that you're going to want to use. Otherwise, you're going to be poking and poking and poking and poking and poking and poking. We're going to use this stuff. First up, we need to take the rocker arm off. And there's 3 bolts on the Franklin, and there's keepers. They're little sheet metal washer kind of things that are bent up with little bunny ears. We need to carefully prise those bunny ears away from the bolts. We'll take those 3 bolts off, and then we'll slide out the pushrod tubes as well. Not the tubes, the push rods. Sorry, pushrod tubes or something else. Alrighty, so what we're gonna need is some sort of non-marking or very carefully take a flat-bladed screwdriver. So you can see these tabs are right here, right here, right here, right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our screwdriver and just carefully pry those out of the way. These being sheet metal retainers, you can work harden these to where they'll snap. So you want to be very, very careful and inspect them very carefully. I recommend that you just replace them anyway, because at some point they might just snap and you don't want them floating around in your valve system. 1/2 inch, those were torqued on there really well. But you want to take your time, don't strip these. So if you have sockets that have a thin enough wall, get around the keepers. Ow! That's called a knuckle buster. I'm going to do the outside ones first, because if you went left to right or right to left, if there's any kind of, you want to make sure there's no pressure on your rocker arms when you do this. Makes it a little easier. Ta-da! And then we want to just take both push rods and remember their orientation. So I always kind of keep them together, one on one side, one on the other. So don't put those push rods anywhere that you don't want to leave a mess, because they are filled with oil and they will dribble out. Now, if we used a spring compressor on this right now, all we're going to do is push the valve into the combustion chamber. So what we need to do is take our paracord into the spark plug hole. Then we're going to use the piston to hold the valve in place so we can take the spring off. Now, I'm not some rich and famous YouTuber asking you to like and subscribe to this channel. I'm an aviator asking you to like and subscribe to this channel, because that's the way YouTube works. If you don't click those buttons, YouTube doesn't know that you want to see more aviation content and won't show you more. But if you don't like what you've seen, please leave me a nasty comment down below, because that's the way the internet works. May all your flying be good flying. So, we take the end of our rope, paracord, whatever you got. The sad thing about this procedure is we have to do this twice with the paracord. Once to take the spring off, and then you got to pull all this out to lap the thing, and then you got to shove all this back in here to put the valve spring back on. Let's see if I can get more in there. Oh yeah. Didn't have the piston all the way down. The advantage to using a thicker cord is, like I said, it's by volume, so you're trying to fill up the cylinder as much as possible. Now, I'm not going to use this whole bundle, but we're going to use quite a bit until the point, and you'll feel it when it won't go in the hole anymore. Which I think we're getting pretty close, so I'm going to cut it right there. Now, there's a couple reasons why valves do what they do to cause this condition. One could be carbon buildup. Two could be corrosion from inactivity. Or three, the valve just wasn't lapped properly when it was assembled. Alrighty then. Get the ladder out of the way. So I have made up a little L angle. This is just my homebrewed tool. Now, there are a variety of spring compressors. A lot of them are specific to the type of engine that you're going to be working on, but I find that the one for the Lycoming works really well. I think this is actually a universal one, but mostly use these on Lycomings. There we go. So as we hold this down, just kind of get in here with it. Get these keepers. Out of here. That one. Try not to use anything magnetic, because you do not want to energize these keepers. Whoops. All right. Yeah. Be wary of falling parts. And that is our spring cap. Right. Oh, before you pull that out, you want to put on this little adapter. Okay. And some engine oil. I have a little restaurant bottle here. I'm going to just dab up the valve spring here, or the valve stem here, because we're going to be spinning this valve in the seat, and I don't want it to create any wear on in the valve there. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of compound on a Q-tip and go in from the spark plug hole. And we're going to put that compound in between the valve seat and the valve face. All right. And now we pull all this cordage out of here. Yay! I'd say that's pretty close to 25 feet. Let's see how well this can see that. Trust me, if you were here in person, you'd be able to see that valve very clearly. Make sure you have a good supply of these Q-tips, because we're also going to be using this to clean the valve when we're done. Carefully down the hole. So you can see that's about how much I put on the valve. And you'll notice, if you can listen very, very carefully, so when I pull this valve to the seat, you'll hear that grinding sound, and it'll get smoother and quieter as you go. I'm gonna help myself out here a little bit. Just a touch more oil here. Take a fresh, clean Q-tip. I'm going to pull off some of this compound. Do this as many times as you need till you see a nice clean ring around the bottom of the valve. Just take your time. There's no rush here, and this is a process. So. And once you've got enough of this compound off that you can inspect the valve seat, or actually you may or may not be able to see the valve seat. You might with a borescope, but you're looking at the valve underneath where it, I don't know, is that the head? I forget the terminology for underneath where the valve meets but that's all lapping compound. So now you can hear how smooth it is. There's still a little bit of compound on there that we need to clean up, but we're going to continue to clean that, and then we're going to hook up the compression tester to it and see how well we did. Now. Looking pretty good. Alright, now that we've got the valve lapped and cleaned up, I'm going to show you, I used one Q-tip to apply and at least that many to clean up. You can use some solvent, but not into the cylinder. I would apply it to the Q-tip and then shake off any excess. You just want it moist. You can use either acetone or isopropyl. Anything else other than that is probably too strong. I would probably stick with the isopropyl. But yeah, those Q-tips are an invaluable tool when doing valve lapping. So next, so we've already done the compression test. We went from 25 pounds to 64, which is quite a bit. And I measured out that paracord. It's about 25 feet long, so that's about what you're going to need for most engines. And it's 1/4 inch cord, I think. So now that we've got it all cleaned up, now it's time to put it all back together again, which means stuffing that stuff back in the cylinder. Yay! Now that we got all the cord back in there, we are going to reassemble the spring and put all the valve, train, rocker arms, and all that stuff back together again. Our holder down. Okay. One spring. One. So we're going to reassemble our spring. And I'm going to put both keepers in here. Finger gymnastics things. Can employ a friend. This would be the time to do it, but I'm here all by myself. Alright, I've got all that kind of prearranged in there. I'm going to take and put the compressor on the spring. Aha. Valve's back in place. We can remove our 2L. So this little keeper is, which had its day, show up on camera or not, but a little crack on the one tab, so there's a tiny little crack starting on that one, which means that tab could fall off and end up bouncing around inside the valve cover. That one goes in there. That one goes in there. And yes, I did keep track of those. Oop. Get the middle one started here. All our cord out of here. And it keeps it coming, keeps it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. All that. sure that's nice and seated. Manual doesn't specifically call out for a torque, so we're going to use a standard torque for a 5/16 stud, which is going to be 10 to 15 foot-pounds. So we're going to do the middle one first. And then we're going to do the outers. Make sure this is lined up properly. So with this new one, I'm going to line it up with this bottom tab here and push these down. So as I torque it, it doesn't rotate on me. The other ones that are serviceable are already grabbing that little rib. And there we go. So those tabs are just pushed down with a little brass rod and some hand pressure. The only thing left to do is to check the valve lash, and you can check out that video right over here. Go into detail on how to do that. After that, we'll just put the valve cover on, and we'll call it a day. So thanks again. I hope you found this informative and helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, you know they're down there. So anyway, thanks again, and may all your wrenching be good wrenching. Yay. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. That's it for valve laughing. Valve laughing. The only thing